So, friends, it's me, Matt. Welcome back to Hobby Vomit and another book review. So, today I am going to be reviewing The Engineer by Will Wight, book 2 in the Last Horizon series. So, I don't have the physical copy. I just read this on Kindle slash listened to this on audiobook. It was about 75% split. 25% I actually read on the Kindle, 75% I listened to on audiobook. And yeah, I just want to go ahead and review this book. And if you're familiar with our channel, we use a BARF system in which we review our books. BARF stands for B, believable. How believable are the characters in their setting? A is appeal. How appealing was the book? R is rhythm, the pacing and the plot of the book. F is feeling. How did the book make me feel, essentially? And so I'll go through and score each of those 4 categories. Then I'll give a final score and a pitch. All of this will be non-spoiler after I give my final score and pitch as to why you should maybe read this. Then I will go into spoiler territory and kind of recover those 4 categories. And so, yeah, let's get right into it. So I'm going to start like I always do, even though this is only the second time I'm doing it, with the synopsis of the book. I will say, if you've not read the first book in the Last Horizon series, you probably should just bow out here because there's going to be spoilers even in the non-spoiler section for you because this is a book 2, and that's how it works. So here we go. Here's the synopsis for book 2 of The Last Horizon, called The Engineer. Again, please leave if you've not read book 1, or if you don't care, then feel free to stay. All right. So I'm just reading the synopsis, but they've got up there. So the battle with the Iron Legion has left the Last Horizon battered and broken, drifting in space. Varric needs an exceptional engineer to fix his ship, and there's only one person for the job, Mel, the master aether technician. But first, they have to break out of prison. Mel has been captured by the Advocates, a group of superpowered vigilantes who dominate their corner of the galaxy. They are led by Starhammer, an invincible champion with a personal obsession with Mel. The Last Horizon may be crewed by the greatest heroes in the galaxy, but even they have to be careful with Starhammer. Every time he survives a battle, he grows stronger. In another life, Varric saw the end of that road. If he lets Starhammer become too powerful, the galaxy is doomed. All right. So yes, that is the synopsis of The Engineer, and we're going to get right into our first category, believable. So, how believable were the characters in their setting? I gave this a 4 out of 5. So, non-spoiler thoughts. I love the cast of characters in this book. It's super varied. He kind of gives you, I mean, just talking about it, it's so exciting to talk about the characters, because Varric, he's obviously our main character. He's kind of like a wizard in space, but he's got like a staff, but he's also got like a wand, and I think he can use guns, but he's got basically a bunch of magic abilities. So he's a wizard. He's a wizard in space, which is already cool. So that's Varric. He's like the vanilla guy, I guess. Then we got Ryan, who's essentially a Power Ranger that has left the Power Rangers. I'm blanking on what their actual name is called, the Titans or something like that. So he's pretty badass, right? He can call down. Oh, he's not a Titan. He can call down this giant Titan to fight for him. They're like kind of connected, but it takes a lot of energy out of Ryan. Then we got Omega. He's like a shape-shifting sludge that can like kind of split up and shapeshift, who's very cool. And he's kind of like he's kind of a neutral gray character. Not great, but kind of obligated to be part of this crew. Then we've got Sola. Sola's really cool. Sola can essentially just die over and over again and reset, but she's got this suit that it's like a video game, right? After she does something cool, it allows her to upgrade that suit with credits. So that's fun. Then we got Queen Shirax. She doesn't have too many special abilities. She's just inherently very, very good at everything, especially like leading combat and stuff like that. So that's the crew. They eventually pick up Mel. That's who they're searching for. Mel, who's like just a badass engineer. No special powers, just a very talented aether technician, essentially. And then the other main character, I would say, well, Last Horizon herself, the actual ship, is a character, and she's a fun character. And yeah, she's just essentially the ship, but she kind of like brings herself to an existence as in like a human-esque form. But she's a fun character as well. And then our main villain, and that's another point I've got here in my non-spoiler thoughts, is that we have a great villain in this book. I love the villain. I love villains like this where what they think they are doing is right. And that's the type of villain you're getting in this character, or type of character you're getting in this villain. Is he's not just like a mustache twirling bad guy. He believes what he's doing is right, and he is trying to protect the galaxy. So that's fun. So yeah, I've got a great cast of characters, great villain, and there's also a decent amount of growth amongst these characters, amongst themselves as well. So book 1 was really getting the crew together, and now book 2, the relationships are kind of forming between these characters because they are now part of the crew of the Last Horizon. They're all working together to complete these quests or missions that each of them have. And so yeah, you kind of get to see them play off each other and their relationships grow, and that was fun to see in this book. So that's all I'm going to leave it at for now for non-spoiler thoughts. 4 out of 5 for believable. Next is to appeal. How appealing is this book? I give this a 3.5 out of 5. So my non-spoiler thoughts, really the biggest hit on this is there's nothing unique or new here. There's nothing super, there's no there's no hook really. It's really fun for sure. Like a ragtag crew with a bunch of different special abilities are on this sentient ship, but it's really just like kind of superheroes in space, even though it's fantasy. It's a nice little mixture of those two, but yeah, really not bringing anything new to the table. So yeah, some appealing things, like for me, what I talked about already, an appealing villain, a villain that you will remember, I think, and it's just not just like a nothing burger villain that's there for a book just to serve the purpose of a villain. He feels like that, I wouldn't say you root for him or anything, but it's like, it reminds me of like Thanos in Infinity War. Like, you like him. You don't like him, you don't agree with him, but like you kind of get why he's doing what he's doing, even though it's wrong. But like Thanos is such a memorable villain where I would say 95, or dare I say 99% of the villains in the MCU are just forgettable. I don't remember their names. I don't remember what they do. They just exist to kind of be there for the hero to beat. But Thanos is not, and I would say Starhammer in this book is not that either. He's a villain that I always enjoyed being with, and I got why he was doing what he was doing. So I do find that really appealing, especially in a good guy, bad guy kind of scenario. I need a good villain. So I will say great villain. Solid world building. I mean, the world building continues to grow. I will say it was a little hard for me to follow on audiobook, and I've talked about this a ton. I think it's just a me thing. There are a lot of different areas of the galaxy, a bunch of different races, and there's like the different groups as well. Like there are the Advocates, which are kind of like the Justice League, if you will. They're just like a group of like superheroes that are doing good. And then there's like the crew of the Last Horizon. Then there's the Queen Shirax's race, which I'm trying to think of what she's called. All of the characters in the Last Horizon are all of a different race, except for Varric and Mel. But like Sola's her own race, Rion's his own race, Shirax's his own race. I'm assuming Omega is, and they may have said that, and I just forgot. But there's a lot of races going on, and yeah, there's a lot of world building. So maybe a little, I don't want to say too much because I think I could see where it's going, right? I could see all the different, it's a huge galaxy, right? And I think it's covered well. It doesn't flood you with information you don't need right then. I think as we go through these books, I'm going to get more and more when it's a little more important to that current book. So I put solid world building, varied characters. I touched on this a little bit during the character section, just how each character has their own little fun thing with, Sola's suit that she can upgrade, and Ryan's got the giant Titan, and that's fun. Every character feels unique, feels very unique, I will say. It's different than your sword and sorcery fantasy where everyone's just a man with a beard or It's like a man with a beard or a woman, and that's kind of, there's not, everyone's just a human, right? Here, everyone's way different, so it's very fun to follow that. I'd say it has a very anime feel. Now, I've not watched a ton of animes, or read a lot of manga, but it just has that fun superhero anime feel. I mean, it just does, from the ones I've seen at least. Yeah, it's just very action packed, not super deep or anything. It's just a fun popcorn ride, and that's what that is. And then I put some of the knocks as really the biggest knock is just there's nothing original about it. I think he executes it pretty well, but I don't think there's no hooks or anything like that. I think it's got good humor. Will Wight, so far 2 for 2 for me as far as his humor. I enjoy it. It's not over the top, but it's there. I will say he does the little thing at the end of books where he adds in bloopers, which I appreciate it, I guess, but I don't really particularly like it. It's just kind of strange reading a blooper scene of a fictional character. It's just very weird. I mean, like, it's different, I'll give him that, and it's unique, and like, hey, it's not hard. It's not hurting me putting it in the book. It's not affecting the story at all. So by all means, doesn't need to take it out or anything. I just found it very strange. You're like, finish the book and then you go back to previous scenes and they have like, it's like a gag reel. I don't know. It's just kind of weird, kind of strange. But yeah, that's my non-spoiler thoughts for Appeal. 3.5 out of 5. Rhythm for me, a 4 out of 5. Non-spoiler thoughts overall. Great plot. I like the plot. Great pacing. Enjoyed the pacing. It's not too long. These are shorter, I'm assuming, shorter books. I only have the audio book and the Kindle, but I think these are shorter books, maybe like 300 pages or so. So pretty quick to get through. There's not a lot of time spent with like character growth or anything. You kind of get all that growth through the plot. There still is growth, certainly. It's just through dialogue that is serving the plot. So I think it's handled really well. But sometimes I like a lot more slow down moments where you just get to sit with the characters. Now, I don't know if I'd like it in this story. I think the way it's done in this story, it fits because it is very much so a popcorn read. I don't know if these slow down. I mean, there are very few of them. There's actually a couple in here, and they're fine. I think they're good. But I think it's the right amount. So I think that's why the pacing it worked for me. It has a really exciting finale. Some other things that felt good about the plot and the rhythm was just, I liked that. Yeah, we get to round out the crew. That's always fun. And then we get to, so yeah, it starts with them rounding out the crew. Then there's like they gotta break Mel out. So that's a big plot point. And then we go on from there to the main problem of the story, which is Starhammer. And I won't say more than that because I'm just going to keep to what's on the back of the book. But I thought those kind of major plot points came at the appropriate times, and the pacing in between them was good. So my only negative here is his students. This isn't really a spoiler. There's just students in the first book. He's a teacher. He's a professor. Varric. He's teaching them about his magic. And they just like kind of show up here and there in this book, and they're kind of relevant to the plot, but it just doesn't feel earned in the way all the other characters do. They just kind of exist, and I just don't know if we needed them. But, not a huge knock or anything. I just could have dealt without it. So those are my non-spoiler thoughts on Rhythm, a 4 out of 5. And then lastly, Feeling. This is the lowest scoring category of the 4. I gave a 3 out of 5. I originally gave this a 2.5 out of 5 because really this book didn't make me feel anything other than I would laugh here and there. I think there's some good humor. But I also don't think that is necessarily a bad thing. I think what this book is, I don't think this book is setting out to make me question things or think about it on a super deep introspective level. That's just not what this book is. Kind of like a Marvel movie, right? I'm comparing it to a Marvel movie again because this feels like a Marvel. It's like getting the Avengers together. It feels like that, and then they're fighting Ultron or whatever, which that's fine. but that's not going to make me feel a ton because there aren't any of those slow down moments. There's a couple of them, but few. And Varric is a character that has lived multiple lives, and they talk about it in the synopsis. He's lived a life where Starhammer has gotten out of control and basically taken out the world. He's lived that life, so he's learned from that. And so it's interesting following a main character who's kind of already learned most of the lessons in life, because he doesn't have a ton of like growing moments. And so I don't feel like I'm growing with that character, or really any of the characters. I don't feel that growth. And so I just didn't feel really much of anything reading this book. But I did bump it up to a 3 because of that. I don't think I don't think Will Wight was sitting there being like, I'm going to make him cry. No, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't think he was trying to do that. So 3 out of 5 for feeling. And then my score in Cell. So my final score was a 3.62, which was the average. And I'm just going to be, I think what I've decided here, this is the first time I've ever had a not like even or normal score, like a dividend of 0.25. I'm always going to round up. I'm just always going to round up to the next 0.25. I think that's fair. I think inherently when you're ranking things so specifically, you're going to get a lot lower scores. Like if I'm objectively looking at a book, for me, I think it's going to be hard for a book to almost ever score a 5 out of 5. So I think I just want to round up here. So that's what I'm doing. And it's my channel. You can't tell me I can't. So 3.62, I'm rounding that up to a 3.75 out of 5. A solid score. And then my Cell is, it's a super enjoyable book if you're looking for a popcorn read. If anime superheroes in space with a crew, with everyone's got different abilities against a villain that you're gonna, I almost want to say root for, but it's not root for. It's just like you love to see him. You love this villain. Then I think this is a great book. I think you should continue the series if you haven't read or if you've read book 1. I think, obviously not a lot of people are going to be watching this because it's a book 2 of a series that's already not very popular. But if you read book 1 and you're here and you're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to read book 2, you should. I think you should. I think it's an improvement on the captain, and I can see it set up to continue. I am very excited to continue reading. Just go in knowing these books are never going to be like for me, they're never going to be a 5 out of. Well, I don't want to say never because anything could happen. But right now, if they continue like this, they'll never be a 5 out of 5 for me. But sometimes I just want to turn my brain off and read a popcorn book. I don't want to have to sit and dissect everything. And so, yeah, I think this was perfect for that. So 3.75 out of 5. And then, yeah, let's just talk about some spoilers. Let me go back to my believable section here. I'm just reading from my notes, by the way, if you see me looking down here. So I don't have a ton of notes for believable. We kind of talked about already if the characters feel believable. I think they do. I think they all have their own. Obviously, they all have their own mission. So, by the way, I'm sorry. Spoilers. We're talking about spoilers now. If for whatever reason you're here on book 2 and you haven't read it, but you've read book 1 or whatever, this is spoiler territory. We're getting into spoilers. So here we go. Spoilers. Believable characters. Yeah, it's fun because every character has their own mission. So yeah, in the beginning, we get that nice showdown between Varric and Shirax, which basically, that's how book 1 ends. Is Shirax hails the Last Horizon to basically take over as its captain, but Varric proves his worth to her, so she comes on. And honestly, I think Shirax is a great character because she starts so mean. But by the end, she has these really sweet moments, even with Mel, telling Mel, you are worth, you're worth it. Mel keeps feeling like she's not bringing any value to the crew because everyone has these cool powers and all she is just like a human. But I think Shirax has a nice arc where she's like, no, you do bring a ton of value to the crew, and that's a nice moment for Shirax, and her whole arc is nice. And then Ryan and Omega have have a funny moment. Ryan is so over the top with the power of friendship, and Omega is so opposite that. But their interactions are fun. Honestly, it's so interesting. Varric is almost my least favorite character. I think he is my least favorite character. I like him enough, but again, I think I kind of briefly talked about this in the non-spoiler. He's someone that's lived so many lives. He's got all these lessons that he still has a lot to learn, but I feel like there's not a ton of growth in these stories for him. And, take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is just my opinion. And I will say, I find it harder for myself to really lock into these types of moments when I'm doing audiobook. It's just a struggle I have. So maybe those moments are there, and if I just could see it, maybe I'd hit it harder. But alas, I listened on audiobook. So I'm doing what I can. I love Starhammer's origin story with Mel, how Mel is Starhammer is so protective of Mel, and Mel is in this prison. They have a prison break, and then you find out Mel is actually Starhammer's creator, which is awesome. And then Starhammer is part of this group of protectors, superheroes essentially, called the Advocates, and the Advocates don't know that he is actually just a robot that Mel created. And he has this really cool ability or whatnot called the evolution engine. And that's what they're trying to stop, because basically you either need to kill him or just leave him alone. Because if you attack him and fight him but don't kill him, he basically learns from his robot mind, learns from that, and his body adapts and he gets stronger and smarter. And so that's the balance they have right there, is like, do we... he is very much, I'm going to protect the galaxy at all costs. No matter what, I'm going to protect the galaxy. And Varric and The Last Horizon are a threat to him because they've captured Mel. They haven't captured her, they've rescued her, essentially, because she is supposed to be the engineer on this ship. Starhammer doesn't understand that. He sees him as a threat, especially because they come to meet up with Varric. Basically, they come to meet up with Varric to talk, and there's a bunch of different factions, if you will, on Starhammer's side, and then The Last Horizon. And there's not supposed to be any fighting, but then someone betrays them and essentially blows up a ship on Starhammer's side. So Starhammer thinks The Last Horizon have initiated this combat, and so now The Last Horizon are bad. And yeah, I just love that storyline, and I love Starhammer. He's a great villain. He is willing to do whatever it takes. Another great character I didn't talk about in the character, because it is a bit of a spoiler, is Shadow Arc. It was really cool to see, another Zenith device and working with Starhammer. And so I found that to be very interesting, and just his abilities are super cool. How even the Zenith devices are all different types of things. I thought that was really good. Like, obviously, The Last Horizon is a ship, and then Shadow Arc is a colony, like a mobile colony, essentially. And so it was fun to see him work with Starhammer. But yeah, Starhammer. Well, let me go. I think I talked about this a little bit more in the appeal about Starhammer. So let me go to appeal. Yeah, I did. So honestly, I don't have too much to say in most of these spoiler sections, but here, appeal, I put, if you want a villain, I love that the villain was similar to like a Homelander or an Omni-Man. They appear good, and I think similar is the right word here, right? Because I think Homelander and Omni-Man are inherently evil. I think they're bad people. Where I don't think Starhammer is. I think he's doing what he thinks is right for the galaxy. It's bad things, and eventually, I think he does kind of cross, go over that cliff when he kills Clock, where he just crosses that line where he's starting to kill other advocates. And that's the line. That's when he crosses that line and goes from bad, but trying to do the right thing, but still being bad, to just bad. And yeah, I think he's just a great villain. To me, that was the star of this. The star of this book was Starhammer. A good villain can carry a lot of stories, and I think he was a great character. And I found it really interesting, his end, how he's not dead, he's just contained. I don't know if that's going to come back to haunt Varric in The Last Horizon at some point, but it's possible. So now moving on to Rhythm spoiler thoughts. The reveal of the other Zenith device, Shadow Arc, in the middle was great. And then I thought the finale was really fun with you getting, or I guess it's technically in the epilogue, where you bounce around the whole galaxy and see all these Zenith devices coming to life, which is bad because they were already surprised that more than one came to life. And I think it's Shadow Arc who's like, no, the other ones are sleeping because they wouldn't come to life. They wouldn't wake up unless something like horrible was coming. And then, of course, the book's ending and all of them were waking up, which means, what does that mean for the next book? But it was fun to see all those different devices. So there's like a sword. I think one of them's a gun. One of them's just like a storage container, I think, of sorts, like a container of sorts. But just seeing, like, I'm interested to see how they all, like, is each one going to be paired with one of the crew, like one of the crew of The Last Horizon? Are they each going to get paired up with one of these? Like The Last Horizon to Varric is like, because Ryan breaks his like sword. Is he going to get the sword? Right. So I think that's pretty fun to see. I love, I thought as far as Rhythm, Starhammer's evolution engine kind of paces the book perfectly. There's like their first showdown, and then he evolves, and then in basically the finale he starts to evolve again, and it's I think that was a nice pace. It went well with the pacing, and then the backstory of Mel and Varric, I found that really interesting. Not a backstory, but like them in another life when they meet, and they're kind of romantic, and she finds out that Varric is part of the what's the corporation he's part of? I'm blanking. Whatever corporation he's part of with his dad, which, by the way, his dad technically is in this book, but obviously I think he'll be back as well. And then, yeah, we kind of learn how Mel was basically grown in a test tube, grown in a lab. So I found that very interesting as well. And so, yeah, those are my Rhythm thoughts. Overall, like I said, I thought the pace and the plot was really good. Nothing groundbreaking by any means. Oh, the other thing I really liked, I liked that Lilari, who is Starhammer's wife, I love that she's the one that outs him to the rest of the advocates and everything, that he essentially, it's a hard moment for her. She sees him kill Clockworker, and that, I think that's kind of the moment for her that puts her over the edge of like, this is not my husband, because also every time his evolution engine kicks in, his like, they mentioned that like not his memories go, but he's just not the same person for like a couple of weeks. He has to like reset essentially, and she's just like, no, this is not him, and so she kind of outs him, and I like that. I think she's a great character as well. So I hope we see more. We don't really know what happens to her, so I hope we get to see more of her as well. But yeah, I thought the plot was good. Save the universe again from big bad threat. Although I will say I liked this more than the Iron Legion King. The Iron Legion, or the Iron King, or whatever his name was, he was really cool too, but this character this villain, right, like I said with Thanos, it's like, yeah, I really liked Starhammer. And the scene where Varric is having like another flash to another life where he gets killed by Starhammer, it's like a brutal execution. He lasers off his limbs one by one, and then basically torturing him to reveal where Mel is. I think it's where Mel is. That's what he's trying to get out of him, or something. And eventually, Varric's down to just his head. All his limbs are gone, and Varric finally is willing to tell Starhammer. He tells him, and Starhammer thanks him, and he's like, but I'm got to execute you anyways because of the law. And he slices his head off with his laser beam eyes, which is pretty sweet. So, yeah, Rhythm was great. I don't think I have anything for feeling for spoiler. It's funny. I think that moment with Shirax and Mel maybe was like the most deep moment. I liked it just fine, but no real spoilers here. It was a funny book, great popcorn book, and that's all. And yeah, so those are my non-spoiler and spoiler thoughts about The Engineer, Book 2 of the Last Horizon series by Will Wight. And yeah, I liked it. I'm very excited to keep going. It seems like each book we're going to kind of, when all the characters sign up for The Last Horizon, they get to choose their mission or whatever. And so book 1 was Varric, with the Iron Legion. I hope Iron Legion is right. I'm pretty sure that's what they're called. The Iron Legion, which also so happens to be Sola's goal. So I'm not sure if that was Varric's getting completed or Sola's or what. But and then book 2 was really we were kind of completing Mel's, which her mission was to find the other Zenith devices, and we kind of found Shadow Arc, and so that was one of her. We kind of completed her mission. We found one of them, and then book 3. I don't know. I mean, they mentioned this faction called the D-Nis or something. The D-Nis. They seem like they're going to be really bad. So it could be them. I'm trying to think of what I can't remember what the missions of the other characters are. But I think Shirax she wants to take back over like her rightful throne of the Perfected or something like that. So maybe we could be getting Perfected on board and then we'll go to the D-Nis or the Big Bad. But I'm excited to see. I'm certainly going to read on. I don't know how quickly I'm going to get to book 3. I think only the first 3 books are out. So I think Will Wight is planning on writing more. It seems like he's going to write one for each crew member, right? We have the captain, then we have the engineer. I think the 3rd book is the knight, and it's got Ryan on the front. So that means we still got like the pilot, who's Omega. I can't remember what their actual roles are, but we got Sola and we got Shirax. So it's 6 books. So I think we're gonna get 6 books. Yeah. So I will certainly continue on. Really enjoyed this it's a perfect audiobook if I'm walking. You know, I'm trying to lock in a little bit more and be better about my audiobooks. I did find myself straying a bit during this, but I try to go back and focus more. But that's just something I'm practicing at getting better at, because I think for some people like me, it is a learned behavior. For whatever reason, I just internalize better with reading, and so that's why I've kind of chosen these books to do it with, is because I don't think I'm going to be missing too much if I don't read this with as much intent as something like Malazan, right? There's no way I could listen to Malazan on an audiobook. No way. So, yeah, I've kind of rambled enough. Those are my thoughts on The Last Horizon, Book 2, The Engineer. I appreciate you being here and watching, and we will catch you for the next review. Thank you, and goodbye.